it's Rebecca. Thank you so much for joining me for today's video. Today's video is going to be my January reading wrap-up. These are the books that I read in January of 2020, this first year. If you guys didn't know, I should probably do like a playlist. I'm really bad at doing playlists, but I will do a playlist of my reading 2019 videos, and I will link it down below if I do make it. That way, if you guys also are project planners who like to read, you guys can check those out. But anyway, I hope you guys, I know a lot of my viewers don't care about this type of video because the views show it. But I know there are some of you guys that do like to read, and I love talking to you guys about books as well. So I'm going to share with you guys the books that I read in January. For this year, my reading goal is 75 books. Last year I set a goal of 100, and even though I did meet it, I felt like I was really pushing myself to read. So I was kind of like forced reading at times. So I felt like I wanted to enjoy my reading a little bit more this year. And I decreased it to 75. Even though I started the month really strong, I read 8 books this month, which is really good. The average should be around 6.5 if I want to make it through 75. So I'm off to a really good start in January. However, I read kind of like mediocre books. Not mediocre, but more like okay books. All of them are 3 stars except for one. I don't know what happened to me. I just wasn't enjoying the books that I picked, and they were just okay books for me. So as always, I'm going to start with the A to C books that I completed. My goal is to read a book for each letter of the alphabet, and then I am also attempting to read the Pop Sugar Reading Challenge, which has 50 prompts, 50 or 52 prompts, I can't remember. And then there's also an advanced section, and that one has, I think, 10, I'm sorry, only 10 in the advanced category, but let's just get started. So for the letter A, I read the book Admissions: Life as a Brain Surgeon by Henry Marsh. He is a British surgeon, brain surgeon, obviously. And we follow some of his anecdotes as a brain surgeon, his experience being a physician in Europe versus being a physician here in the States. Some of his stories were really interesting. They really captured me right away. The other ones were kind of boring, wasn't really into them. So this book constantly had me really excited, really bored, really interested, really bored. So for that reason, I gave it 3 stars. Not a book that I see myself buying again. And apparently he wrote a bestseller called Do No Harm, but just based on the experience that I had reading this book, I'm not interested in reading his other books. Then for the letter J, I read Journey to Munich by Jacqueline Winspear. I didn't know this, but this is like book 15 of a different story, or 12, I think. It's not a continuous series, but they're like companion books. And I think for that reason, because it's so like high up in the continuation of the stories, is that I wasn't really interested in the characters. Obviously, there are a lot of different characters. The characters at this point have really established backstories, and jumping into the middle of the book, I feel like I was missing out on the backstory. So a lot of the things that happened in this book, I wasn't really invested because I haven't been following these characters for all the previous books. So we follow this lady who is a detective who is kind of going undercover to save a man who she pretends is her father. This is during the Nazi area, obviously, and the person that she's trying to save is a Jewish man. It was okay. It didn't have me. It was supposed to be a thriller because, you know, it's a rescue story going undercover into enemy territory to save someone who's kind of like banned or illegal, I guess you can say. But it just, I don't know, I guess I was just in a mood that I didn't enjoy it. It wasn't suspenseful for me. It didn't just grasp my attention, and I didn't care for any of the characters, unfortunately. So yeah, I don't find myself reading any more books either before this book or any books that came after this book. I think there's 15 books out right now, but I wouldn't continue with the series. The next letter that I read was M, and I read Maybe Someday by Colleen Hoover. This is a book, unfortunately, that was way too insta-lovey for my liking. We follow 2 characters. What are their names? Sydney and Hunter. They are both in a relationship, like Sydney with her boyfriend and Hunter with his girlfriend. But then Sydney gets cheated on with is this a spoiler? Probably, but he gets cheated on, she gets cheated on, and there's obviously this connection, right, between Sydney and Hunter, but Hunter can't seem to leave his girlfriend for Sydney, but they still decide to spend like all this time together, and it was just, I felt like Hunter was dragging both Sydney and his girlfriend along just because he couldn't make a decision, and I was really annoyed by that. So for that reason, I didn't enjoy this book as much as I would have liked. I did not like Sydney's boyfriend at all. His reasoning for cheating on her was so stupid, and I couldn't even believe that Sydney was like, well, I kind of understand where you're coming from. Like, he cheated. Cheating is cheating. So really frustrating. I was really frustrated with this book. Not my favorite Colleen Hoover book whatsoever. And those are all the letters that I completed. Believe it or not, out of 8 books, I read like 5 books that start with the letter A. So it was a lot of doubling. But now I'm going to share with you guys the prompts that I finished from the Pop Sugar Reading Challenge. So the first prompt from the books that I just already shared with you guys is a book with a first grade line. And that came from this book, Admissions by Henry Marsh. And I will read you the first sentence because it was kind of like, so you guys can see why it kind of took me by surprise. It says, I like to joke that my most precious possession, which I prize above all my tools and books, and the pictures and antiques that I inherited from my family, is my suicide kit, which I keep hidden at home. So I read and I was like, whoa, what? Did I read that right? He has a suicide kit? So I think that's a really great line because it catches your attention right away. So yeah, that prompt is completed by this. This book also completed the prompt for a book with 20 letters or more. In Admissions, Life as a Brain Surgeon, that's 29 letters. Then we go back to Journey to Munich because this completes also a few more prompts. This completes the prompt for a book set in a city that has hosted the Olympics. Munich has hosted the Olympics in the past. And also for a book with a 3-word title. So Journey to Munich, there you go. Then for the prompt for a book with the main character in their 20s, maybe someday Sydney is 22 years old, if I'm not mistaken. She's in her early 20s. Then the next book that I'm going to talk to you guys about is this book from Emily Giffin, All We Ever Wanted. This was my 4-star rating. In this book, we follow a story that is from 3 different points of view. We follow it from a teenage girl somebody takes a picture of her in a compromising position. Or situation, I should say, and then spreads it around on the internet. And so we hear from her side of the story, her dad's side of the story, and the mother of the boy who spread that picture around. So it's 2 adults and a teenager. This book, I was not expecting it to like it as much, probably because I had no idea what this book was about. It's just one of the many books that I have in my TBR pile. But I really enjoyed it. I read it super fast. And I think having that 3 different aspect of the storytelling really was favorable to the story. I really recommend it. Again, it sounded pretty relevant to things that could happen today. This girl went to a party and somebody took a picture that shouldn't have. And it turns out that she's not the first victim of this boy. It seems like this boy has done it before, and then we follow the consequences of that, having that picture taken and spread around. So really enjoyed it. This book fulfilled, I think, 3 different prompts. First, a book about or involving social media. This book was spread online on Instagram and Facebook, so that's the first one. Then for the prompt of a book with only letters in the cover, as you guys can see, there are no pictures. You see like this little like gold dots, but to me that's not a picture or a graphic. So it's just letters. And then the third prompt is a book with pink in the cover. So this book is baby pink with gold lettering. So I got lucky. The next book that I have here is Americana by, Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie. I think that's how you say her name. And this book we follow, it's supposed to be, I was really excited about this book because I had heard so many great things about this book. However, the story, not to sound mean or anything, but I just didn't really care for the characters or their story. We follow this, it's supposed to be a guy and a girl who, they're from Nigeria, but they are separated when they're young, and then they kind of reunite towards the end. And that's the whole prospect of the book. And we follow Ifemelu, I think that's how you say her name. She comes to America and she becomes acculturated to America. And when she goes back home, how she's so much different, and her family is kind of like surprised at how much she has changed since living in America. At one point, when she is older, she reunites with the boy that she fell in love with back when they were kids in Nigeria. And I thought the whole point was going to be about how when they end up reuniting, they are both very different, because she ended up in the States, he ended up in England. So their lives just completely changed, and when they met together, it wasn't as she would have hoped. We follow a lot of she explains a lot about how it is that African people don't quite feel that themselves less for being black. Like, blacks in America is different than blacks outside America. So there was a lot of talk about that. And maybe this is what it's called, literary fiction. I think that's what this would be classified as. There was no real plot to it. There was no like climax. There was nothing leading up to like the main event. And it was just like a horizontal storytelling. No ups, no downs, nothing exciting. It was just kind of like, this is her life, this is what happened, and that's how things happened. Like, there was no real conflict. So I think I was expecting like something with a little bit more excitement, and I didn't get that from here. And that's why I think I was disappointed, because I was expecting something totally different than what I received. So that's the only reason why I wasn't as excited to read this book. But nonetheless, this book did complete 2 prompts and 1 challenge. So the prompt that I completed was a book by a woman of color. So we have Chimamanda, she's from Nigeria, and also a book with at least a 4-star rating on Goodreads. This has a 4.2 stars, if I'm not mistaken. So that fulfilled this challenge. So also, I think I did mention that I wanted to read some of my bigger books, meaning that I wanted to read a 500-page book every month, and this book completes that challenge for January. This book has 587 pages. It doesn't look like it, but the pages are very, very thin, kind of like Bible thin. So that's why the book doesn't look very big, but this is almost 600 pages. So that's my first book in January. The last prompt that I completed for the Pop Sugar Reading Challenge was a book that you meant to read in 2019. And for that, I went with AD 33 by Ted Dekker. This is kind of like the sequel to AD 30. And this follows, what is her name? Mavia. In AD 30, we follow Mavia, who was she lost all her family and she ends up fleeing. It's during the time of Jesus, during Jesus's crucifixion, but we see some of the biblical passages through Mavia's eyes, kind of like the Bible behind the stories type thing. And this is another book that I just didn't care for. Like I said in my review of AD 30, Ted Dekker usually writes suspense books, and I think he should stick to it. This is another book that has a 4+ rating on Goodreads, and I don't know why I just couldn't get into it. I'm really sad. I think maybe I'll give it a shot again later on. Maybe I'll do a reread of this eventually. I just wasn't into it. Then I have 2 books left over. I have A Long, Long Sleep by Anna Sheehan. This, I thought, based on the cover, and the title, I thought this was going to be a retelling of Sleeping Beauty, but I was way off, like super, super way off. The story does start with our main character being awoken from a deep sleep by a kiss, and the kiss was a boy trying to do CPR because he thought she was dead. And then she wakes up. It turns out this is a sci-fi story. We're in space, in a colony that has been settled in outer space for many, many years. Turns out her parents settled this colony. They were kind of like the pioneers, and they have died, and they put her to sleep. And it's been 65 years since she was put to sleep. And so her parents are no longer here. She ends up finding out that she's kind of like the heir of the whole corporation that has been colonizing outer space. And there's a secret that she ends up finding out. It changes the whole perspective of of why she was asleep for so long. So though I like sci-fi, I really like sci-fi, but again, this is another book that I thought I was getting a Sleeping Beauty retelling. Like I kept trying to read cutesy books and nothing turned out to be like what I wanted. So this is another one I gave 3 stars. I think I'm gonna stick to Alex Flynn for my retelling stories. I read 3 of her retelling stories and they're awesome. They're cutesy, fun, easy reads. So I'm kind of disappointed with this one, again, only because I wasn't expecting what I got. Then last but not least, I read My Sister, the Serial Killer by, oh boy, I don't even want to attempt to pronounce this, Oyinkan Braithwaite. And we follow this story of this, what is her name? I can't remember her name. Korede. She has a sister, Ayula. And her sister is a serial killer. And it's not a spoiler. It says there on the title. And we follow, I'm going to call her Kay because it's easier to pronounce. So we follow Kay as she's a nurse, and so she's always cleaning up after her sister's boyfriends because she kills them. And we follow why she kills them. We get to see how her sister kind of has a personality disorder, I would say. And I was really annoyed because I feel like our main character was just used the whole time. She didn't learn anything. She didn't gain anything. She was just a pawn in her sister's game. And the way that this book ended, it seems like she was never going to stand up for herself and she was just going to let herself be manipulated by her sister. I guess the sister's love is greater than anything else. But I mean, come on, to a point you have to like put your foot down and stand up for yourself. This is another book. I thought this book was going to be like a suspenseful, scary book. It was not, at least not to me. Again, another book that I was disappointed that I was having really high expectations for. I had heard a lot of people talk about this book and really hype up this book, so I thought it was going to be, you know, a really, really great read, but another book that let me down. So that is it, guys. I'm currently reading When Life Gives You Lululemons by I forget her name, the girl that wrote The Devil Wears Prada, and I'm really enjoying it. I was surprised. I wasn't expecting to like it as much. So I'm really enjoying it. So maybe I'm gonna start, hopefully I start picking up good books that I'm really gonna enjoy. But there you have it, guys. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed. Let me know what you guys are reading in the comments down below. If you guys don't follow me on Goodreads already, go ahead and click on the link below and let's be friends and talk about books. I'll see you guys next month.